The Committee on Education and Labor will come to order for the purpose of evaluating the effectiveness of MSHA's mine safety and health programs. At the hearing on March 28th, this committee heard some very strong criticisms of the U.S. Department of Labor and its Mine Safety and Health Administration. We heard from those directly impacted by MSHA's work that despite its sweeping authority, the agency moves at a glacial pace and often simply fails outright to enact meaningful and effective safety standards. Debbie Hammer spoke of her husband, Junior, who was killed in the Sago mine. Quote, she said, "If I knew then what I knew today, I would have begged my husband not to work at Sago. Congress mandated explosive-proof seals, and yet MSHA approved the use of Omega blocks at Sago. MSHA approved the ventilation system at Sago that did not push the air away from the seals. Therefore, when our miners tried to escape, they could not." Scott Howard, a miner, told us that in his 28 years' experience in the mines, he hadn't seen any evidence that it was safer despite the more robust laws passed by Congress. He said, outside the mine, safety is first. But when you go underground, coal is all that matters. It's obvious from the hearings that MSHA must regain the trust of the people who rely on the agency every day, miners and their families. It appears that MSHA is not acting quickly enough to implement the Mine Improvement and the new Emergency Response Act that Congress passed last year. In today's hearings, we intend to examine why this is the case. In many ways, it seems that MSHA has chosen to move at a snail's pace when it could be acting far more aggressively. For example, MSHA has yet to require mine operators to install emergency rescue shelters in all underground mines. Just an hour ago, I toured one of these shelters right here on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. The shelter can safely hold 37 miners for up to 96 hours with breathable air, potable water, and food. The shelter I toured was one of a half dozen such shelters which the state of West Virginia has approved as safe for underground coal mines. The National Institute in Occupational Health has advised us that they consider these shelters safe and have no plans to ask West Virginia to stop the deployment or to alter their requirement. If these shelters can help the miners of West Virginia, then they can help the miners in Kentucky, Illinois, and Alabama, or any other mining state. These shelters are just an example of how the states have acted more swiftly than MSHA to improve the mine safety. Congress established MSHA to protect the safety and health of miners. Congress gave the agency a lot of discretion to do that, and the courts have upheld that discretion time and again. Yet under the current administration, we have plenty of examples where MSHA has not used its authority to aggressively protect miners. It is clear that MSHA sometimes needs a push from Congress. Last year's Miner Act was such a push. It did not address all of the lessons we learned and continue to learn from the tragedies at Sago, Aracoma, Alma, and Darby, but it was a push in the right direction. In today's hearings, we want to hear about the progress MSHA is making to implementing the acts of Congress, whether MSHA is being sufficiently proactive in improving mine safety even beyond the Miner Act, and what tools MSHA may need to further carry out its mission to properly regulate and enforce the law. I look forward to these hearings and hearing that testimony.